Welcome to another episode of Mayo Movie Club, where every few months I stop by to talk about some movies that I love, or maybe that I just find interesting in some way. This episode's list is quite eclectic. Yes, there are horror movies, there's always a horror movie, but we're really going to jump around this time. Let's start with one of the most unnerving films I've seen in recent years, Stuck from 2007, starring Mena Suvari? Yeah, Mena Suvari. Working in an elderly home taking care of people with special needs, her character Brandy demonstrates a huge caring heart. She loves what she does, and she's so good that she just got a promotion. Life is looking like it's going in the right direction for her. Good things really do happen to good people. To celebrate this new promotion, she goes out to party at the clubs, dancing her ass off, celebrating life, and meeting up with her dealer to do some party drugs. After the celebration, she heads home, driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs, and she runs over a homeless guy crossing the street. She hits him hard, and he flies through the windshield. She panics, clearly not thinking straight, on drugs. She drives straight home. Now she hasn't just had an accident, she's committed a crime. And then she realizes the guy is still alive. And you know that so much is running through her head, thinking about how she's already committed a crime, and if she calls someone, her life and career are likely finished. That's the movie. That's what I'm gonna leave you with. It's tense, it's anxiety-inducing, and well acted. Really simple premise, most of it takes place in one location. It's not gonna be for everyone, but you'll know from this summary if you'll be into it. It really makes you think about what we're all capable of. Keeping this going with themes of violence and people in bad situations, Brawl in Cell Block 99, starring Vince Vaughn, one of the most captivating films I've seen in recent memory. Yeah, Vaughn is mostly known for comedy, but there's nothing funny about this story. He plays a reformed criminal that has to go back into running drugs to support his new family. His wife, played by the beautiful Jennifer Carpenter from Dexter, is expecting a child, and he's trying to make sure they have everything they need before he gets out. When a pickup with the Mexican cartel gets busted, he ends up in prison for several years, and while he's on the inside, he's pressured by them to take out a hit on another prisoner. They've taken his wife and they're threatening to hurt her if he doesn't do what they ask. The problem is that he's in a low security wing of the prison, and his target is in maximum security, all the way in the basement of another facility where the real violent psychopaths are. So the only way he can get there is to raise his own security level by starting a bunch of fights. It is awesome. Vaughn's gigantic size is really used to full effect here, making you feel like a single punch could knock a man out. He's strong, he's intimidating, but he's endearing. You're rooting for him the whole time, even if innocent people get hurt along the way. It's a wild ride and a very high recommendation. I also want to say one of my favorite aspects of this movie is how the violence is shot. There's no close-up, shaky cam and fast cutting. The camera pulls back and you just get to admire the action. It's really satisfying. Speaking of Vince Vaughn, Old School from 2003, a classic frat house comedy from my youth. Will Ferrell in his early years, Luke Wilson playing the straight man perfectly, and Vince Vaughn in one of his funniest roles as a grumpy married man that yearns for a return to his glory days. After Mitch, played by Luke Wilson, gets divorced, he's got to move out and he finds housing on a college campus. The place quickly turns into the party spot for the school. Binge drinking, streaking, even a live show from Snoop Dogg. But problems arise when the dean, who used to be a kid that was picked on by Mitch's group back when they were in school, discovers what's going on, and he sets out to remove them by saying campus housing is for students and student organizations. So they actually start a fraternity with many misfit students joining. It's a big hit and everyone is happy except the dean, who tries to get their status revoked, expelling the students involved. Now the adults of the situation have to take responsibility, seeing that their actions may end up ruining the education of a bunch of kids that don't deserve it. They get their acts together and suit up to prove to the board that they really are a legit organization of students, not just a party house. Getting in shape, enlisting for school competitions, studying hard. It's a really fun story that starts off as a crazy party movie, but turns into people showing that they can accomplish great things when put to the test. 20 years later, I still think it's hilarious too. But you know what movie isn't hilarious? The Fly, the 1986 remake of the 1958 sci-fi horror movie about a scientist who accidentally splices his DNA with a housefly while using his newly invented teleportation device. This is a great, if not the greatest, remake of all time. It's a really simple premise. A man slowly turns into a human-fly hybrid. His creation of teleportation needs more testing on live subjects, and he just couldn't help himself. He had to be the first person to teleport, and since he did it alone while drinking, the fly that entered the capsule went unnoticed, and now he's got fly DNA in him. At first he feels amazing, he's super strong and athletic, he's like a new man, but really he's a new being altogether. Jeff Goldblum gives his most iconic performance, and David Cronenberg's signature gross-out practical effects take the movie into uncomfortable realms of body horror that result in many people being unable to watch it. It's the slow disintegration of a man, body and soul. Not necessarily a good date night movie, unless your date likes gross horror movies, and if that's the case, put a ring on it, as Beyonce says. And to close this out, something a bit lighter. Well, still pretty heavy, but without a gory monster at least. This movie is a very different kind of serious movie. Unfaithful, starring Diane Lane and Richard Gere. Rewatching this one, I noticed the director was Adrian Lyne, and yeah, it actually feels like Jacob's Ladder sometimes, particularly due to the photography. I thought maybe they shared a cinematographer, but no, so it must be the director's influence over the film's look. As the name would suggest, Unfaithful is a tale of an affair. Connie and Edward Summers appear to have a happy upper-class home life, they have a son, Edward owns his own business, and Connie, I think, works as a successful fundraiser for organizations or something. And one day while shopping, a windstorm knocks her down and she collides with a young French man carrying books. She's hurt. He offers to help clean her wound upstairs in his apartment, and she reluctantly accepts. You can see the allure of this man, living a totally different life in the city than she does as a mother in the suburbs. His apartment is full of books, as he's a book dealer. He's handsome, he's young, he's got that French accent. She takes a book that he offers her as a memory, and at home she discovers a business card inside. The temptation wins, and she makes a call from a payphone. They begin spending time together, nothing too bad yet, but after a few visits, of course the tension eventually explodes and the affair begins. The movie spends a lot of time in the sort of honeymoon phase, as she's experiencing incredible passion, sex, and thrills of her youth. But slowly the guilt starts to eat away at her. Her husband can sense something is off about her, she's less affectionate towards him, lying about where she's been going, and he starts to look into her daily activities secretly. That's all I'll say about the story, I don't want to spoil it. Unfaithful is an interesting film because you really get to feel the excitement of the affair, what's so attractive about what she's doing despite how wrong it is. But then the consequences are felt equally strongly, if not more. Well, definitely more. One thing I like about this movie, other than Diane Lane's unbelievable beauty, is the way they don't clearly show dissatisfaction with her family life. It's only hinted at. Another telling of this story would show Edward as some kind of dirtbag, making you sympathize more with Connie. Another telling would show Edward as someone completely perfect, making Connie out to be a heartless villain. But it's not that clear. Yes, I'd say this is Connie's story of her grave mistake and the consequences. Yes, Edward is certainly not a husband who deserved to be treated like this. He obviously loves his wife and believes in their family. But there are little scenes that let us feel the tension in their marriage. When Connie visits Edward after work, after first meeting the French stranger, she's there because she's compensating for her feelings and wants to do something nice for her husband, showing to herself how good of a wife she is. And then when Edward has to take a business call and becomes very stern and direct with who he's dealing with, you can see that Connie is uncomfortable. There's a side of Edward that she's seen that she clearly doesn't like. We see this tension in the opening of the movie when Edward is checking stock prices and shows so much passive aggression in the way he tells Connie that the stock she advised against investing in is now skyrocketing. Their relationship certainly isn't perfect. There's things about Edward's behavior that contributed to her ultimate desire to have an affair, but it's not like he drove her away. It's complicated. That's what I like about it. It feels real to me. That's it for this episode of Mayo Movie Club. Thanks so much for watching. I'm already considering what to talk about next.